This is the Scorer to Follow podcast.
Welcome to the Scorer to Follow podcast. It's Friday, it's a bank holiday. We're all very D-mob happy to be with you tonight. I'm Neil Mundy. Opposite me as always, Dan Laundy.
Hello.
And to my right as always, Mark Annals.
Hello.
How are you doing, gents? All right?
Not bad, you?
Yeah, not too bad.
3 days off, holiday booked. Very pleased.
The weather seems to be ridiculously good as well, forecast, which is just seems to, I don't know what's happened there, someone's missed a memo.
I know, bank holiday, weather, usually rubbish.
It's going to be steroids, isn't it? But yeah, it's looking good.
First sign of sunshine in 6 weeks today, to be honest.
Beautiful. Right, well, let's crack on with the show today. We are going to look at the week's action, so the Champions League qualifiers and then the Champions League draw itself, Europa League qualifiers, Europa League draw itself, and then preview the weekend's action.
We can probably ignore the Europa League stuff.
Well, I don't think we should. I think it's a valid competition, and you're also going to talk about the League Cup as well, and the League Cup draw, and that's probably less interesting than the Europa League, I'd say. So,
to be honest, Dan, actually, you do want to take an interest in the Europa League because that's what you'll be dropping into.
Shade thrown, like it. Straight off. He's gone quiet as well. That never happens.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But yeah, okay. Let's talk about the Champions League draw. So Daniel, Spurs have got quite a difficult Champions League draw with Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, and another team whose name completely escapes me for the moment. But you're going to tell me who they are, or you're looking at me in panic because you've also forgotten, which is brilliant radio.
No, it was a Cypriot side. Limassol.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apollon.
So
Apollon. Yeah. So to be honest,
tough draw.
But very tough draw. But
Wonderful professionalism from all of us there.
I'm kind of the feeling that if you're going to play in the Champions League, one thing that came out of last year, obviously we didn't get through, but there was nothing exciting about the draw. Nobody quite knew Monaco were going to be what they were. Leverkusen, sort of, it's not bright lights, is it? To draw Madrid and Dortmund, it adds an excitement to it in a way. I mean, I don't expect to necessarily get through, but it's going to be fun trying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Real Madrid at Wembley, that's going to be some occasion, isn't it? You know, so you like to think that all the fans will be up for that as well, and this Wembley hoodoo thing might be over by then.
We have to drop this Wembley hoodoo thing. Let's not encourage
It's
it.
got to stop becoming a thing, I think. I think people have got to stop mentioning it, which admittedly I just did. So
I think the longer you don't get results there, then everyone's just going to talk about it, unfortunately. But yeah, I think you'll break it this weekend, to be honest.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the fixture this week?
Home to Burnley.
Brilliant.
Well, as home as you can be at.
Yeah, home to Burnley. Okay. Should get the drummers going again then.
I think they've put an end to that.
Have they?
Mercifully.
Already? Most short-lived thing ever.
I mean, quite why they thought playing that over the tannoy system was going to...
Yeah, it's not... I mean, in some ways you've got to laud them for trying something, but yeah, you know, I think people see stuff like what Dortmund do with all the guys and the megaphones, and that works for them, but you know, I don't think that would work for.
I think when Spurs have got the single tier at the new ground like they've got at Dortmund, I think that could be perfect for that sort of thing. But at Wembley, the atmosphere, even with 70,000-80,000 people in it, to me, Wembley always feels sterile. It does at England games, it does at cup games.
It's a very corporate stadium, isn't it?
And even watching the game, it feels slower. There's something about Wembley that it's not conducive to watching entertaining football a lot of the time. Maybe it's just my opinion, but...
No, I agree, to be honest. I mean, it's funny actually. I'm sure we have played well at Wembley, at the new Wembley, but I don't ever remember us doing so. We've nicked a couple of results there, but
it doesn't help for me that I think Spurs have lost 9 out of their last 11 appearances there or something.
Going back to Champions League draw, how are the fixtures playing out, or don't you know that either? I just asked another question that you're not going to be able to answer.
I can't remember, but I think we've got the Cypriot side first.
Yeah. So
then Dortmund, and then the Madrid double header.
Yeah.
So yeah, in theory, if Spurs can get a result against, obviously no disrespect meant, but the weakest side on paper in that group. Yeah, if Spurs can get a result against those and pick off Dortmund at home, then it means that the kind of double header against Madrid are kind of free swings to a degree. And then
you would expect, Mark, looking at that group, I mean, and obviously we, as I constantly say on this show, that football can make fools of us all, but you would expect that group to be Real Madrid probably in first place, and then Dortmund and Spurs fighting it out for that second spot.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I mean, I think Real Madrid will win the group, but who will finish second is anyone's guess, really. I think Tottenham have got a good chance of doing it if they can obviously win their home games. And well, we know obviously Dortmund's, if they've got a good team as well. But yeah, I think it'd be very tight for the second place. Tottenham could easily get it.
I remember playing Dortmund only a couple of years ago in the Europa, and I think at the time it wasn't clear whether Spurs were trying to go for that competition or not, because they just knocked out Fiorentina, I think.
Yeah.
And then they had Dortmund, and it was like, well, give this a go, and they didn't. And Dortmund that night made us look ordinary. They were very good, and obviously they don't have Mkhitaryan now. They don't have Gundogan. They do still have Aubameyang, potentially.
Yeah.
Depends what happens over the coming week.
I think they'll probably keep him now.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I think it'll probably end up being split. I think Dortmund will probably win over there, and I think Spurs could nick the win over here. So I think it might all come down to anything you can nick off of Madrid.
Yeah, or how you perform against the other side. Seeing as assuming that you win both of those games, it sometimes comes down to who wins better.
Yeah, it kind of feels a bit disrespectful to sort of almost count that as 6 points, and that's not my intention. But I think if you didn't get that, it would be disappointing. I think not to win those games.
You expect that from the seeding, but we always know that there can be a crack outfit anywhere.
It
just comes along and surprises you. And
I don't think it will be them, and that may come back to haunt me, but I don't think it will be them.
You wouldn't put your money on it. But.
Another narrative to this, before we probably move on, is that obviously it means Gareth Bale and Luka Modric.
Yes, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
Could come back to...
but it's obviously it's weird as well, because they're not coming back to White Hart Lane.
No.
Which is where they play, so it must be a bit strange in that respect. But.
Can you imagine Gareth Bale given an open flank in Wembley, running against Kieran Trippier?
Is that
be good contest.
He might be injured.
In what way is that a good contest?
I think he's being diplomatic. Well, it'll be a good contest for Mark. Well, he'll enjoy watching it.
Or are you saying that Gareth Bale might be injured, so it'd be quite easy for Kieran Trippier?
That's possible.
He does pick up injuries, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll barge in and talk about Liverpool for a bit. Obviously, very good on Wednesday. Bit of a mad game, and I think the opposition was a bit naive to think they could come at us. And okay, they did score 2 goals, but they were out of the tie by the time they scored them. So, I think it was very much a case of if you're going to come to Anfield with that attitude, all the best, lads, and that's what happened, really.
Well, their manager, highly rated, because isn't he only 29 or 30?
Yeah.
He apparently had said in a press conference before the game that he felt his team could quite comfortably garner 3 goals.
Yeah, I think he's wound up a few of our fans. I haven't really bought into it, but I think he's obviously shown a bit of overconfidence there, and I think he's just been made to look a fool, and the result speaks for itself, really. I think they're a decent team, Hoffenheim, but they're an emerging team, and I think we sort of put them to the sword, really. Very impressed with attacking display, like the fact that we actually came out of the blocks firing, because that has been a bit of an issue for us. We start quite slow sometimes, but that first 20 minutes was lightning, was brilliant, and the third goal's one of the great Liverpool team goals.
I did applaud the goal. I did watch the game because obviously my girlfriend's a Liverpool fan, so we had it on anyway. And I did find myself applauding that goal because it was just great football. And I think sometimes when you see football of that standard, provided it's not his lot, you have to
mark for reference.
You have to respect it.
Yeah,
and enjoy it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and it was great to watch. Obviously, from my perspective, very pleasing. Get through, because there's always that worry with the qualifier. Although when I looked at it, it seems that barely any. I think like 2 English teams have lost that qualifier in the last 15 years, and they're bidding it as well, aren't they?
Are they?
Yeah, there won't be one from next season. I think that all 4 teams just go straight into the group stage. Fact checking, look that up. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Really disorganised this week.
Yeah, we've done terrible to no research, which is probably what our listeners expect from us. But yeah, so moving on to the groups. Yeah, I mean, it was obviously it's a decent group. I sort of have a slight reservations about being overjoyed because, like you said, Dan, you have to play the biggest and the best at some point, and we also seem to fare better against the really big teams. Having said that, you'd take that group.
The thing is, it's more as a fan. What do you want from the competition? I mean, Spurs aren't going to win it. Okay, it's highly unlikely. So do you want the big boys coming? You know, you want to experience players like I was going to say Bale and Modric, but we have experienced them.
Quite close quarters.
But you want to come up against it. Your Ronaldos, your Aubameyangs. You want to play against that sort of competition. And all right, you might get beat, but that's what you're sort of fighting the whole year before to play. The players don't stand around on a training ground saying, "Oh, you know, I can't wait to go to Hamburg next week." It just doesn't.
No disrespect meant to Hamburg fans.
Well, they're
many of whom may be listening. Yeah, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. That said, I think last time we were in it, we actually had apart from Real Madrid, we had a fairly straightforward group. Made a mess of that, and so this time I'm just sort of thinking, well, this is a group of moderate toughness. You've got Sevilla in there, who are obviously a handy side. Moscow, which, you know, I mean, that's never an easy place to go. And then Maribor, so they're a bit of an unknown quantity. So it could be tougher than expected. I hope that we'll go through though, and I hope that we've got a home fixture to start against Sevilla, then 2 aways, and I hope we sort of break the back of the group and get maybe 7 points out of that, and then we can go from there.
I mean, the quality that Liverpool have got in their first 15-16, you would imagine would see you past Maribor, and certainly at home against the Russians. You know, as points on the board, generally Russian sides don't travel that well.
Yeah, that's true.
But then going out there isn't much fun either.
Yeah.
Long flight, and often midwinter. It's.
Yeah, I think we've got them early, which I think I was quite glad about. I think I think they may be the first away game, so that's mid-September. So that's still not as much of a factor as it could have been. Because you definitely don't want to fancy going there in November, December, do you? It's still something you want to be doing. But
you're confident about getting through the group, though, really?
I think it's always difficult to tell, but I hope that we can. I hope we can do it. I think I'm fairly.
Come on, let's have your true feelings.
Yeah, it's so difficult to get me to commit to an optimistic goal. I'm fairly optimistic. I think we can do something. So yeah, look out for us finishing last with no point. No, I think we'll have a decent run. Hopefully, and get into the next round. I think.
I have to say, nice touch from Hoffenheim. Liverpool tweeted straight after the match that it was great to be back, and then a picture of the Champions League trophy. And Hoffenheim's club account then tweeted Liverpool good luck.
Oh, that is quite nice. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, I just thought it was a nice touch because as a club they've grown a lot over the last sort of 10 years. I believe last time Liverpool won it, they were still in the 4th tier of German football or something along that line.
It's a growing place. I'm sure they'll make the Champions League. They have the makings of a good side. I mean, manager might be a bit of a dick, but you know.
Well, it's mates with Klopp, isn't he? So it's funny that he chose to kind of try and rile him.
Strange, but I didn't realise they were friends. But no, good luck to him. I think that they look a bit like a Europa League side anyway, so I think that could be a good route for them. And the Europa League, that brings us neatly onto the draw for Arsenal today, Mark, which was I have seen, but now once again due to terrible research, you're going to have to tell me who Arsenal got because I've completely forgotten.
Oh, were you not in the Champions League draw?
I was waiting for that.
No, we thought we'd give it a miss for a year.
Have a gap year.
Yeah.
You know, experience new things. Go travelling. Go to Bulgaria and Finland and run out of places. Mark, tell me who you've got.
Well, we've got some miles to go. We've been drawn against the closest one. We've been drawn against FC Cologne of Germany.
All right.
And then we've got
smells good.
Oh, God. And that's been Score to Follow podcast, everybody. We'll never be coming back.
Right.
Sorry,
Okay.
Mark.
And then we've also got Bartek Borisov.
Yeah.
Bartek Borisov, yeah.
I've seen the name.
Yeah,
before.
Borisov.
I've always wondered.
Of Belarus. And
Some more.
then Red Star Belgrade of Serbia.
I mean, that could be potentially tricky, the away time.
Well, obviously, Red Star Belgrade over the, well, maybe not so much now, but obviously over the years, big name in European football.
Yeah. Oh, they won it, didn't they?
They did.
1990, I think, something
Yeah.
like that.
I think it's the first European final I remember watching.
Yeah. Was
Was
it
that?
the European Cup, as it then was?
Yeah.
So yes, to start with a home game against Cologne, and then trips to Belarus and Serbia follow.
You reckon they're clocking up the air miles? Do you reckon Wenger's going to be using his frequent flyer pass?
He will be.
Yeah.
He will be. Yeah. Yeah.
You say
It's
that,
kind
but another result like the weekend, he might not be there for the Europa League.
I think he'll be better no matter what.
Well, I think it's kind of like the draw could have been worse. It's a group where we can potentially play some of our youngsters, and which I think he's kind of sort of confirmed he's going to do, and sort of fringe players. But yeah, we've got to be careful in that. I think we've half got to take it seriously, but obviously we need to think. I think the league's the main thing we need to concentrate on.
It's a hard one to judge, isn't it? Well, I think what you're doing if you're Wenger is you're hoping that those kids in reserves can get you through the group, and then you can reassess in February and see where your league season is. If it happens to be that the Europa League suddenly looks like the best shot of a Champions League place, then you sort of go all guns blazing into that, don't you?
I think, bearing in mind the strength at the top of the Premier League now, I think that Arsenal should show it the same respect that Man United did. Whether that means they actually go to win it, I don't know. But I don't think Arsenal are going to win the Premier League any more than they are.
No.
United did a similar thing though, didn't they? I'm pretty sure in the groups they played sort of a mix and match side, and then sort of strengthened.
Yeah, which I can understand.
Yeah.
But I think Arsenal need to take it semi-seriously. And again, speaking from experience to a degree, with Spurs been in it most years, I think it's a competition that as you go through, not only is it a European trophy, which might not count to everybody these days, but also the fact that it's the automatic entry back into the Champions League.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
And with Arsenal, it must be one of the strongest teams in it. I think Lyon are in it as well. But
AC Milan is the favourites. They are. Yeah, Lyon have got quite a tough. Everton have got quite a tough group, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got Lyon and Atalanta, I believe.
Yeah.
Who have finished.
Some good trips there, though.
Yeah, but again, if you're an Everton fan, that's an exciting time.
Yeah, no, it would be good for them. Yeah, no, that'd be good. Well, I think the Arsenal thing's going to be really interesting to watch how they cope with it, because it's not something that Wenger's had to do before. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how they get on.
No, the last time we were in it was before that was the UEFA Cup. We got to the final, but lost against Galatasaray on penalties.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah, there was trouble, wasn't there?
There was, yeah.
There
was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's. We'll be keeping an eye on Europe as things progress steadily. I mean, just any word on the other teams, I suppose. United seemed to get a fairly straightforward group, and Chelsea's didn't look too full of danger.
I don't know. I think Chelsea's could be a bit risky because they've got
Atletico,
the double header against Atleti, and then they've got Roma.
Yeah.
So Conte going back to Italy.
Yeah, maybe a couple of
tricky away tie again. I think a lot comes down to what you get out of your away games in Europe. If you can win your home games and then nick points away, I think that tends to be what gets you through, doesn't it?
Yeah, it could be a couple of tricky ones in there for them because City seem to manage to avoid a group of death this time, which they'll probably be happy about, and the fact that they're not playing Barcelona for what seems like the zillionth time.
But Pep's come out and said he thinks that Napoli are in the top 3 sides in Europe at the moment, which is. Yeah. I mean, is that just to sort of allay some of the pressure on the players to make it through? Do you think?
I think it's a bit of a gilding the lily sort of, talking the side up like they always do. I haven't watched enough Italian football. They're probably a handy side. They have been a handy side previously, but I still would expect City to go through, I think.
Well, just another line on that Chelsea thing. The other thing that might come to fruition is if Diego Costa goes back to Atleti in the meantime, he could end up playing against Chelsea.
You would have thought now, Mark, there was no chance of that happening because Chelsea will not only are we selling him to a European rival, we're selling him to somebody we're going to play against.
Yeah, that'd be.
Yeah, it may have scuppered him, mightn't it? Yeah.
I thought similar about Coutinho. If we got Barcelona, I thought, well, the club's got another line of avenue to say, no, we're definitely not selling him because he's going to play against us.
It's a tough one, that Diego Costa thing, because obviously, surely Chelsea just want to, because we know he's still in a self-imposed exile, wouldn't he? So Chelsea also want to get rid of him, and if Atletico Madrid is the only place he wants to go to, they might have to just bite the bullet.
Yeah, but then there's obviously a transfer ban and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Into,
Obviously he can't be
play as
registered until January anyway. So
it's a bit of a tricky situation. Yeah. Okay. Well.
Do we have a favourite? Sorry, before we move on, can we see past Madrid? It seems unlikely statistically they'd win it again, but can you see it? I mean, their squad is incredible. I cannot see another winner.
I can't see, because obviously we know Barcelona obviously been weakened by Neymar going, but even though they've seemed to, I'm not sure we'll talk about this later, but
you're allowed. Go ahead.
agreed a deal for Ousmane Dembele.
Yeah.
From Dortmund, so we're also going to get him.
It looks like Di Maria as well. Obviously, again we'll come on to it, but
oh really?
So it would.
That's just breaking, isn't it? Breaking news.
Well, it's been rumbling on over the last couple of days, but I think their fee's been agreed. I think.
Oh really?
£50 million, but
even though I saw that someone hacked Barcelona's Twitter account and announced the deal, and it hadn't actually happened. But I think it is in the pipeline still. I
suppose since we're still on the Champions League, one other thing to say is group.
Just before you do that, outside bet City.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think they're so focused on it. Don't get me wrong, they're not favourites. And United, you could obviously put United in this as well. I think City and United both have managers who are very seasoned and very focused. Obviously won it before, know exactly what the competition's like. Wouldn't surprise me to see either go deep into the competition personally.
How about obviously I've just sort of mentioned them, but Paris Saint-Germain, obviously now they've got Neymar, but I don't think they're good enough defensively to actually go all the way.
Yeah, I mean, unless there's a sort of a Kevin Keegan thing going on where they score 5 goals and somebody else can see 3. I mean, they've got the resources.
Well, I'm going to say no, because Sky was saying just before we started doing this tonight that the Mbappe deal looks like it's going to be completed by Monday. Okay, so they're going to have Neymar, Mbappe and Cavani up front. But in order to cover off the financial fair play, they're having to flog a hell of a lot of their squad.
Draxler's off, isn't he?
Draxler looks like he's going to be off. Di Maria, as we've just touched on, is going to be off. Aurier's going to be off. And that's just 3 I can think of off the top of my head. They've already sold Matuidi to Juve.
I hope we're going for Draxler, actually.
It's all well and good them having that front 3, unless they're looking at the Barca model and thinking they had those front 3 stars. In behind that, it doesn't matter too much, because largely the superstars kind of buy Barcelona results, or have done previously.
Yeah.
So I wonder whether it could come back to sort of to kick PSG that they're losing a lot of talent and depth from their squad by having to cover off the fees that they're spending.
Yeah, there's a lot of churn there, isn't there? And it's not always productive. You can buy in the most talent, but sometimes Chelsea have found before actually doing things slightly differently, and I think City to an extent as well. That sometimes you just have too much movement in and out, and you can't build a cohesive squad. So that would be my worry if I was a PSG fan. But having said that, they certainly have the resources at their disposal to have a strong run in the competition.
Well, I think talking about PSG brings me back to the point I was going to mention just now. In their group they've got Bayern.
Yeah.
So that's already a bit of a grudge match there, because Bayern tend to sort of stay within their means despite being like a football giant. They don't overspend, and I think they'll see Paris as like upstarts really.
Yeah.
So there'll be a grudge game there.
Kids on the block.
But if we discount Anderlecht from this, we've got Celtic in this group. And
yeah.
Can you see Celtic getting anywhere near qualifying out that group?
No, bottom.
No, but it almost... I mean, I don't want to patronise Celtic at all, but I think it comes to a point where I think they just... I think a lot of Celtic, and I could be completely wrong on this, I could be talking absolute rubbish, and I do it all the time. But I think a lot of Celtic fans just look at the Champions League as some fun games, and they have a great time at home. They've beaten the likes of Barcelona there before. It's a really difficult place to go. They won't qualify probably. They might get into the Europa League, but again, they get to play Bayern Munich and PSG at home, and all those well-paid stars get to come to Celtic Park, and it's difficult for them. I mean, Liverpool say with Anfield, and Anfield has a special atmosphere, so does Celtic Park, especially on a Europe.
Yeah, they'll get a rough ride there. I mean, I think City only got a draw there last year.
And was slightly fortunate. So, I mean, I've said this now, they're going to get hammered all 3 games, aren't they? But I think they enjoy the ride, see if they can pick up a Europa League place out of it, and then go back to hammering other teams 7-0 in the Scottish Premier League.
I think to be in the Europa League and staying in Europe after Christmas could be a really big deal to Celtic. Knockout football after in the Europa League would be really good for them.
And it's a competition they could do well in. They're not a.
It was only a few years ago. It was against Mourinho's Porto, wasn't it? Before he went on to win the.
Yeah, it's about a decade ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
About 03 times, something like that.
Something they have done it in moderately recent times.
Yeah, that was under O'Neill, wasn't it, when he was doing quite well?
They beat Barcelona as well, didn't they?
I think that was last season, wasn't it? Or the season
before.
Recent, I know.
Well, Ancelotti hasn't got a very good record at Parkhead either. Apparently, he's Celtic Park even. Yeah, he's played there 3. Well, he hasn't played there, but his teams have been there 3 times with Milan, I think, and he's got a defeat and 2 draws.
There you go. Lump on Celtic to win the Champions League then.
Well, maybe just that fixture.
Okay, Europe's done. Let's cover Europe. Tick that box. Unless there was anything else you wanted to say, because you're not looking at me like there was.
I was just thinking of Brexit then, because you talk about Europe and ticking a box. We've all had enough of that.
Oh yeah, let's not go back into Brexit. It's a sour taste in the mouth. And another thing that leaves a sour taste in your mouth, this is brilliant, I'm loving this segue, is the League Cup draw. Go on, rant about how rubbish the League Cup draw is.
This did anger me this week, because, as I said to you guys earlier, the League Cup is a tournament that, for years now, has been undervalued. Most fans see it as a Mickey Mouse trophy. If you win it, you're pleased, but everybody else calls it Mickey Mouse. But in recent times, the last couple of seasons, teams like United have started taking it seriously. And obviously they won it last year, Mourinho's first trophy there. I think City might have won it the year before.
Yes, I think they beat us in the final, actually.
Yeah. So, and the fact that Liverpool and Southampton, 2 other Premier League teams in the final, obviously trying to get a trophy. It looked almost like it'd been revitalised a little bit until this year. It gets sponsored by Carabao, who I think are a Chinese.
Thai, actually.
Are they Thai?
I looked this up. This is something I actually have done research on. Not on clubs and Champions League play draws, but on Thai energy.
So it's a Thai energy drink, isn't it? Right.
And they also sponsor Reading and Chelsea's training kit.
They do. We know a lot of stuff about Carabao.
So
you could get them to sponsor this.
Does that mean Reading are going to play a friendly against Chelsea at 4 a.m. on a Tuesday?
I hope so.
So
I've watched that.
Yeah, my underlying issue with this is that the tournament looked like it gradually coming back out the ashes, and then the FA kind of sell its soul by allowing the draw to happen.
The league.
Well, the league, but I'm sure the FA probably have some kind of input into the conversations around it. They must do if they govern English football, and if they don't, they should, because what's happened here is embarrassing, really, because a draw that happens at 4 a.m. in a country in a different time zone that isn't televised anywhere here, in a tournament that really needs all the support it can get, I just think it's a slippery slope. And what happens next? They then do that with the FA Cup, because the FA Cup is along a similar line now. It doesn't get given perhaps the same prestige it once did. So what happens if another sort of Eastern company comes along and say, well, we'll sponsor it, but the draw has to be at 3 a.m.
I mean, you talk about devaluing the FA Cup draw. It's already on the one show.
This is true. Which again, I'm not in favour of.
Much more devaluing than that.
Well, I'm not in favour of that, but at least I saw a couple of the draws they did on the one show, and at least they get fans out together. It's a bit cheesy, but again, they're trying to keep the spirit of it going. Whereas just having it in some corporate office in the middle of the night, I just think you're alienating the fans that already aren't attached to that tournament anymore. And I can't see, other than the financial reasons behind it, I know you could argue that there's marketing as well, because it puts English clubs out there a bit more. It doesn't taste right to me. Neither does the drink.
Wonderful. Mark, your thoughts on either the League Cup draw in Thailand or the Carabao?
I haven't actually tried the drink.
Which neither of us have ever tried.
No, but
You tried it?
I am quite intrigued to try it now though.
Why are they always named after bovine creatures? You've got Red Bull, you've got Carabao.
But it's something to do with
It's the touring.
and making you strong. Well, not strong. It doesn't really make you strong.
Every time I hear it, I just think they're saying Haribo. That'd be better. Sponsored by Haribo.
Tang Fastics Cup.
Yep. Cup. Amazing.
But your thoughts?
Well, it is a little bit of a farce, really, isn't it?
That's the word, farce.
Yeah, the draw of it. Like I say, it's an English competition, but drawn at 5 o'clock in the morning in China.
Didn't you say that they did a previous practice rehearsal and they got that wrong?
No, it wasn't a rehearsal. It was the last round.
Yeah, it was the last round. Charlton Athletic came out twice.
That's ridiculous.
I don't know if that was the television that then got it wrong. I just saw a display out with Charlton Athletic coming out twice. Good luck, boys. You've got to play Sheffield Wednesday at home, and then I can't remember who it was away. Let's say for Burton Albion.
It's laughable.
It could have been better. It could have been. And at home, Charlton Athletic will be playing Charlton Athletic.
I did see someone had done that actually. They'd mocked up a screen of just entire Charlton Athletic versus Charlton Athletic. The counterpoint, I was texting a mate about this. I'm not really that bothered by it, but I find it a bit bewildering more than anything. And he said that basically Carabao obviously paid more to sponsor it, and he said that the lower league clubs will get some of this cash filtered down. So his argument was, I'm not bothered because it gives the lower league clubs a few extra pennies to spend, which I think is fair. I also think at the end of the day, it's someone drawing some balls out of a hat. I do get your point, but I'm just if they start playing games over there, then I might get a bit annoyed. But I can handle the draw.
But that's good, perhaps from the club's point of view, to get an extra few quid in the coffers, and ultimately a lot of the smaller clubs do need it. But if you're a fan of, let's say, I don't know, Walsall, right, and you get through, and you're really hoping for a big tie. Part of, again, the draw of watching the draw, FA Cup, for example, is you sit there and you watch and you wait, and it's kind of that anticipation of seeing who you're going to travel to and who you could be playing.
Do you think it's like that with the League Cup, though? Because the League Cup draw, for me, was always something that just happened. It was because it seemed, but in previous seasons, it's always seemed to happen right after you play. So it's literally like, oh, lads, you've just beaten Southampton 1-0, and your next round you've got Manchester City away. I don't think it has the same prestige.
I'll concede that. I do admit that it's never been high profile, the draw, but it's still that sort of thing that if you're taking part in that tournament, I think as a fan, you want to feel engaged with it, and I don't see how you can if the draw's happening in the middle of the night in another country.
We could go round and round on this. I see your point. I also see his point. I sort of feel like it meets in the middle. Still feels a bit odd, but then I do also feel there are bigger battles to fight, if you know what I mean. The actual draw itself, who did you get?
Spurs have got either Barnsley or Derby.
At home?
Yeah.
At home.
Yeah.
But it's Arsenal. Who did they get?
Doncaster at home.
And Liverpool got Leicester away. So it's all much of a muchness. I think with all three sides having European commitments, you'd expect a shadow side to be put out. Funnily enough, we've got Leicester away in the week and then Leicester away at the weekend in the Premier League.
Yeah, you see happens, doesn't it?
It does. It's amazing how often that seems to happen. But so I think you'll see all three teams put out. And I mean, Tottenham and Arsenal, I imagine, will probably go through. Liverpool might be a bit difficult. Could be a tough one, but
I just think that the cup tournament, cup competitions, full stop, they need to have a little bit of a look at how they can stop these from essentially ending. because I think with every year that goes by, something else crazy happens. There's that other tournament where the under-23s or the under-21s take part, but then the FA or the league, whoever, stipulate that you have to play a certain amount of these players.
That's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
We looked at it on another podcast, but
yeah, I remember. Yeah,
I don't think selling the rights to the draw out abroad, because that's where the sponsors come from. It doesn't sit well with me.
Much better when it was the Rumbelows Cup.
Donald Trump.
No, not that.
Do you remember Rumbelows? It used to have snow on the logo.
Snow?
Yeah. But it was the early 90s. The League Cup has been so many different things.
Yeah,
so
I think Rumbelows before.
The best one was the Milk Cup, obviously.
What do you mean it had snow on the logo?
I think they did Rumbelows, We have to look this up.
Yeah,
I think important information on this football podcast.
Listeners, if you're still there, Google this, because I don't recall it.
They've been dissolved, because I did Wikipedia that.
Oh, I know Rumbelows have been dissolved, yeah.
I love the fact that you said that, like that's common knowledge. Ask anyone on the street. Of course I know that Rumbelows have been dissolved. Have you been living in a cave?
It was a Rumbelows before it was Coca-Cola, wasn't it?
Yeah, we won it when it was a Coca-Cola. It was working to us for a while.
No, it was,
just thinking of other silly name stores that have since been dissolved. Tempo was another one.
Electronics. I'm going to say discount electronics.
Not necessarily discount, but...
Welcome to...
Are you thinking of electronics boutique?
Oh yeah, what happened to them? That was like a game store.
Burnt down.
Burnt down. Was it you?
I'd like to clarify, for anyone who's listening, Electronics Boutique did not burn down.
And it wasn't Dan?
Yeah, nothing happened there.
No,
absolutely not. Okay, let's move on to the weekend's action.
Please.
A seamless link after speculating on electronics discount stores that are no longer with us.
Before I get forever tarnished as an
arsonist, which as an Arsenal phobe, you would be less likely to. I'm going to move on.
Wise.
We did mention Arsenal. Liverpool playing Arsenal on Sunday, Mark.
Well, yeah.
It's a bit of an odd one because it's so early, and I think shades of last week's game, Spurs-Chelsea, which I know you probably won't want to go into in too much detail. But it's a bit of an odd one because you feel like both managers will obviously want to win the game and they're neither are the type who want to settle for a draw. That being said, you feel at the back of their minds, Wenger in particular, because he's the away team, but I think a little bit in Klopp as well, feel like let's just not get beat here. And I wonder if that might come into play. I think it'll be a good game because Liverpool Arsenal games are always good games.
High scoring usually, aren't they?
0-0 now I've said that. But,
yeah.
But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I think already Arsene Wenger's under pressure to actually win this game after obviously last weekend us getting beaten by Stoke.
I thought you were a bit unlucky at Stoke, to be honest. I thought you should have beat Stoke.
We didn't play great, but we still had chances, which we didn't take. And
I know that doesn't really help because you still lost the game. But.
Yeah, I mean, probably should have had a penalty, but wasn't given. So what can you do about that? But yeah, and then again, we didn't. The chances we did have, we didn't take, and Stoke took one of theirs. So fair play. But yeah, because we've lost already against a team that we shouldn't be losing against. This game now is a little bit of added pressure for Wenger. So I'm not. To be honest, I'm not that confident. But I do think there'll be plenty of goals.
Yes, this is probably one thing you can guarantee. Liverpool's difficult to say as well. I mean, we put on, obviously, like I said, we put in a great performance on Wednesday, but you don't know how much that always translates to Sunday at 4:00 when it's a very different atmosphere.
Yeah.
A little bit of after the Lord Mayor's show.
Could be, yeah, could be. It's a tight one to predict. Harder. I think a lot of people will look at it and go, oh well, Arsenal struggled in their last fixture and it'll be an easy win for Liverpool. And I really don't think it, being at home, I really don't think it will. Liverpool Arsenal games very rarely work out like that anyway. I mean, I thought like the one I remember that I thought we'd probably win ended up 4-4. So.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
So I'm not counting any chickens, but hopeful of a similar approach.
We've got a few players back. Hopefully we're able to sort out our defence.
Koscielny being back.
Koscielny's back. Got Sanchez back as well.
Yeah.
Whether or not he'll start, I think he's got to really, but you don't know with Wenger, where he'll probably just be left out altogether now.
He brought him on last year. I remember after 45 minutes. I don't think there was anything wrong with him as well. I think it was one of those.
He was rested because he played Confederations Cup in that, I think, or something like that.
Oh, was it?
Something like that. Yeah, he had a summer tournament.
Oh, right. No, I mean the home game. I think the home game, the Liverpool. But Arsenal game at Anfield, I'm sure he came on at half time.
Oh, I think he was just come back from it. Yeah, he back. He was come back from it. Oh no, he did. He got dropped, didn't he?
You talking about Sanchez? Sorry.
Yeah, Sanchez. He got dropped.
Yeah, he dropped him.
Yeah, because
they had a fallout.
Yeah, it was he stormed out of training apparently, didn't he?
Just going back to this, the Oxlade-Chamberlain situation could be interesting because he might. Although I actually think he's probably more likely he'll go to Chelsea. He might be playing against his future employers.
He might be. I do actually think he's more likely to go to Liverpool because I think he's more likely to play where he wants to play at Liverpool and get actually the game time. But yeah, it's one we should have sorted out his future a year ago at least.
Yeah.
Sounds defeated there. There was kind of like a heavy sigh.
There is.
You know, I get where he's coming from because, well, it's happened to Liverpool before. You can only wait. In fact, it might even be happening at the moment with Emre Can. You can only waive so many contracts in front of a player and ask him to sign them. If they're not doing it, then they're clearly sending you a message.
The thing is, I don't even think it's about money. It's more to do with he wants to play centre midfield, and Wenger's not willing to play him there at the moment.
He might as well because none of the others are up to it.
Well, yeah, but I think I do understand that. Okay, that's his best position, but where we play him with the wing because we can use his strengths. The fact he's very, very quick. He's got a lot of skill. So I think it is a perfect position for him. But obviously he wants to be more of a central midfielder.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one, but yeah, I'm disappointed to see him go because I think he's one of our better players. But we've just we see it time and time again. We just mess around with it. Don't offer people contracts, get down to their last year, and then we're in trouble.
Ironically, I think I've watched bits of Arsenal, and I think he's been probably one of their better players over 2 games. But whether that's that whole shop window thing or not, or he's just he's always been a decent player. So I think it's interesting you mentioned and we're probably digressing a bit onto transfers, but I think it's interesting you mentioned the out of contract thing because Arsenal now have 3 of those. Now I think Monty's dropped his pen and then mouthed the swear word, but he didn't say it, so we're not marked as explicit. It's all right. So you've got Özil, you've got Sanchez, you've got Chamberlain. I think there probably is a feeling that something has to give. If it is that thing, if something does, you'd probably rather it was Chamberlain, wouldn't you, than Sanchez and Özil?
Well, I don't think we got a chance with Sanchez signing a new deal. I think he would. I think the one most.
You'd probably rather just keep hold of them for another year.
Oh yeah,
regardless.
I'd keep hold of Sanchez for another year. I mean, I'd like to keep hold of Chamberlain for another year as well, especially if he stays fit. That's been his only problem. We can't give him we've never been able to give him a run of games because he just picks up injuries.
Yeah.
Speaking of games, we probably should get back to the game.
Yeah, we were talking about a game 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well done for bringing us back in.
I think there'll be goals because neither side can defend. That's been shown.
Mm-hmm.
So the 0-0 thing does seem unlikely.
And both obviously got quite a bit of attacking flair. So
yeah, it won't be a dull game. I wouldn't have thought. I know I joked about it, but I can see both sides have got really good going forward. Lacazette worries me. I think his he scored a good goal in the first game. Slightly unlucky to have that marginally offside.
Good finish, very good finish, but
in the Stoke game. So he worries me. Giroud's always done quite well against us. Then again, I mean, if Sadio Mane shows the form he did on Wednesday and Roberto Firmino does, then we've also got plenty.
Salah as well, but both sides now.
Yeah, Salah's come in and looked decent as well. So you have to think that we've got a bit going forward as well. But yeah, I'll be as soon as we can see the corner, I'll probably be head in hands. Actually, it won't be because I can't watch it. But if I'm listening to it, I'll probably be hands over ears, hoping that Dejan Lovren can somehow head it away. But there you go. So yeah, I think it'll be a good game anyway.
3-2 Liverpool.
Plenty to watch. 3-2 Liverpool. I think it might be a draw. I'm going to go 2-2.
We will see.
Do you have a prediction?
I don't care.
Doesn't care.
I don't care.
That's not nice, is it?
I need you both to drop points, so a draw's the best outcome for me.
Not nice not to care.
Well, I
It's
mean,
rude. We care about Spurs faring against Burnley.
We do.
Yeah.
Will Harry Kane ever score in August?
that's a myth, isn't it? He scored plenty of Europa League goals.
True. He's hit the
I thought
post
the
in both
Europa League
games.
didn't count earlier.
Well, it does. But you either score or you don't. This it's the way the media tag the tiniest thing on, isn't it?
I know. I think, yeah. Well, he's hit the post in both games, isn't he? So, I think it would be.
Apparently, I don't know. Chris Samba doesn't go to the toilet throughout the entire month of May.
That's factual evidence for this podcast. I suppose.
Equal nonsense.
Yeah. I suppose there is a thing for Spurs and Liverpool and Arsenal, for all of us here, is that United are sitting on 6 points. They're playing Leicester at home on Saturday night. Leicester could potentially give them a bit to think about, but you would bet on their current form that they'll be on 9 points come Saturday evening. So, I mean, Liverpool and Arsenal probably kind of... It shouldn't be a must-win game in the third game of the season, but it already feels like you'd be sort of clawing things back. And the same with Spurs, obviously, got beat last week. So, at least you want to be spending the Saturday only 3 points behind United.
I mean, they haven't played anybody yet, but they are off to a flyer. I mean, they seem to have kind of hit the ground running, these wild horses, as Mourinho referred to them the other day.
Writing a rock song.
That they all seem to be like they're playing at their peak immediately. You've got Lukaku's coming in full of confidence after getting 5 goals in 3 games.
Yeah.
Pogba looks like he's been unleashed. Mkhitaryan looks a different player to the player that turned up in Manchester when he signed, probably because he's fitter and again fitted more into the system now. Mourinho seems to trust him a bit more. They've got Matic there as the holding player.
Yeah.
The defence, despite the fact that it still seems a bit dishevelled to me, it seems stronger. I mean, they haven't been tested yet. That's the thing.
I think we should always bear in mind that Manchester City started last season like a train, won like 10 of their opening games. So there is always that. But having said that, Mark, they do look fairly ominous at the moment.
They do. What I was just going to say about United that we need to remember is that in both games they've played so far, they were 1-0 up for a long time and then struggling, and then in both times the other team's just fallen away and they've scored another 3 goals.
And that's probably an early season thing more than anything else, isn't it? With teams getting their fitness, teams can play for 70 minutes and do okay, and then they fall away. And obviously United, their expensive squad they've got
a bit extra
manager they've got. Probably trained within into their lives, are very seasoned at sensing a weakness and exploiting it.
You could argue they were a touch fortunate against Swansea because obviously they scored right on the stroke half time after the Pogba header. Brilliant save by Fabianski, by the way, but the Pogba header comes back down off the bar and Eric Bailly touches it over the line. But Paul Pogba could have been sent off with 2 yellow cards 5 or 10 minutes before. If he's not on the pitch, he doesn't get that header.
Yeah.
United are then playing for 45 minutes with 10 men. Not saying they wouldn't have won it because, again, the strength and depth they've got, they may still have nicked it, but it wouldn't have been so conclusive. So they were fortunate on the day a little, although perhaps a red might have been harsh. But we've seen the ones that happened at the City ground on Monday. Both of those very soft.
I haven't seen those, but I heard the second yellow for Walker was very harsh.
Well, he backed into I forget the Everton youngster.
Nottingham Forest.
Sorry, just thinking of City and putting ground together.
Forest, wow.
The Etihad. I hate calling it that.
So and on the Against Modern Football, episode 12. We'll do a pod. We'll do a pod one day of all your gripes. That'd be good. Good content. Anyway, sorry. It's gone quiet. So basically, they were harsh.
Yeah.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah, I think the Schneiderlin one was a bit harsh because he got the ball completely.
With that one,
it doesn't matter if you get the ball though.
Yeah, I would say with that one, the trailing foot was on the ankle.
Well, it's the trailing foot.
I know, but the trailing foot, now you almost have to calculate where your foot's going to be in tackles afterwards because quite often you see cards dished out for trailing legs.
True.
You're essentially taking tackling out of football.
Oh,
It is.
another gripe.
No, because I mean, when you're playing, we've all played 11-a-side football. When you're playing, you don't want somebody coming through you and tearing your legs in half. But at the same time, if you took out any form of physical contact and the element of risk, there'd be no game. So,
yeah, I see what you're saying. Let's move it back to the preview. And we mentioned Everton. Everton go to Chelsea on Sunday lunchtime. It's been a good start for them so far, 4 points from 2. And Chelsea, got over the line against Spurs. A little bit of luck, I think. But so it's a hard one to call, that one.
Chelsea Spurs at the weekend was almost an identical replay of the Cup semi. Spurs had by far the better of the game for a larger part of the game than Chelsea. Chelsea, I think, probably had the first 20-25 minutes. After that, pretty much all Spurs apart from Chelsea on the break. So Chelsea needed that result. Obviously, you'd have had everybody jumping on them saying that they're in turmoil.
After one game, yeah.
So they probably had to get a result. And fair play to them. They did the jobs that they needed to. They stifled Spurs. And on another day, we probably would have got a point, but so it'd be interesting to see if they can be more expressive now against Everton, because they obviously didn't turn up against Burnley.
I think it's interesting, Mark. I mean, we talked about Oxlade-Chamberlain earlier. Chelsea's squad looks quite thin at the moment.
It does.
They really don't have much depth, especially with the likes of Costa obviously not being available and that kind of thing.
They've got 27 players out on loan.
They've always got 27 players out on loan though, haven't they?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, Conte's been complaining that his squad's not strong enough, and you can look at it and say, well, you've got like I say, you've got 20 odd players out on loan.
Yeah, no, I totally get the counter argument, but the here and now is that for whatever reason they haven't strengthened particularly. But whether obviously you can make the choice about loan, and I agree with that, but the here and now is that they're a bit short, I think.
They are. Well, you've seen their benches the last couple. They've got people like Jeremy Boga and a couple of youngsters on there. I think they need another striker really. Probably another midfielder.
Another striker. They got Morata and Batshuayi. You don't think he's up to it, Batshuayi? Well, Spurs have only got Kane and Janssen.
I don't think he particularly fancies Batshuayi, does he? I don't. He's not. He's only used him sparingly.
Tottenham should sign him. He scored for him the weekend.
He did actually. It's a good goal.
Yeah, it was good. Anyway, I think they are. I mean, their first 11. I mean, they've got people to come back. I mean, they signed Bakayoko, who played. I think come on a sub, didn't he, at the weekend? He's not completely fit. They got him. They've bought in to replace Matic. They've obviously got Hazard to come back.
Yeah, that's a big.
So, I mean, they had obviously. I think they need another defender after they've not really replaced obviously John Terry going. Their first obviously they got
Rudiger in, didn't they? But
yeah,
I think
it was kind of like the one that surprised me most of all. They got rid of Terry, and then they obviously sent out Zuma. I know.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess
they've got Christensen back off loan, didn't they? And they seem to have been paying him.
He seems to like him though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, this is. Going back into transfers slightly, I still wonder if there might be a deadline day thing, and it might be Van Dijk.
Yeah.
I wonder if with Chelsea whether they know at the moment if they put in a bid for Van Dijk that Liverpool will immediately put in a bid. So I wonder if they're actually delaying it for as late as possible until they can actually bid. But I still don't know if that's strategies. Well, I still don't know if that's even a strategy. But if it is, I don't know whether it's going to work. But yeah, just going back to the game, Everton started well, looking okay. I think I can see Everton getting a draw out of it. I know they got absolutely binned 5-0 last season, but this is a different Everton team, and I think they've got a lot more resilience.
They fought well, weren't they? So also you just signed Sigurdsson as well.
Scored a good goal for him last night, didn't he?
Yeah, as well. I was just about to go into Paul Merson language and say scored a worldie, but I kind of stopped short there.
You've done it now.
Well, I can't take it now.
You can't take that back. It's a shame.
Yes. But yeah, scored a good goal, 45 yards.
45 yards. There you go. Eat that. as one of our old friends would have said. The other game that sticks out, there isn't many other fixtures that stick out the weekend for me, but West Ham Newcastle, possibly for all the wrong reasons, or Newcastle West Ham as I should say. Both teams probably desperate for, well, not desperate, you can't be desperate 2 games into the season, but both teams are very much like a win for different reasons. Obviously there's some unrest behind the scenes at Newcastle, which is pretty well known, and West Ham just haven't gelled yet.
Well, just unlucky at the weekend. I think West Ham, weren't they? They
did great to get it back to 2-2.
Yeah, I see Hernandez looking the part, so we know he can do it in the Premier League, but it's just gave a very silly penalty, didn't they, at the end of the game. So I think Newcastle need to win that game more. But I think there's also pressure on Bilic to get a result there. I think they're going to go into that game and look at that and think we should be picking up 3 points. West Ham. So
whichever side loses that, the manager's in trouble. One, because Bilic was already on thin ice at times last year, and then 2, from the Benitez side, I don't think he'd get the chop, but I think he could consider walking, because obviously he doesn't feel he's got the capability to strengthen that squad. So that game is a very early season indicator as to how these 2 coaches are going to stay in their jobs.
Yeah, it's a hard one, isn't it? But the Newcastle thing already feels quite sad at the moment, just in the terms of they've got back into the league. The first season, got a manager that everyone's behind, but then the owners, again, not playing ball and not backing him.
Did you watch the Mike Ashley interview?
I didn't see it. No,
until I've actually.
Anything particularly pertinent come out of it?
It was kind of one of those interviews where he was it felt like he was trying to get people on side by admitting he'd made mistakes and admitting he doesn't have the money. It felt a little rehearsed,
before,
I think.
I think I saw him interviewed last season just after they went down, and he said, "Oh no, he was very upfront about it." And I don't think it's going to wash with the fans anymore because they've seen it too many times. But it's a sad situation, to be honest. Come back and you sort of they're a big club, and it's nice to see them in the Premier League. But
I guess there's more spirit at West Ham, because although they were 2-0 down with 10 men, they did bring that back, partly because of Southampton's kind of docile attitude after being 2-0 up, but even so, they pulled it back.
Yeah, they look like there's something there, West Ham. I think it might be a slow start, but
they've got players to come back as well. Lanzini not playing. Antonio just come back, not completely fit
yet. Yeah, he's a big player for them, isn't he? Lanzini as well.
Andy Carroll.
Yeah, I keep forgetting he's there. Yeah, I think they'll start doing reasonably well, which probably means they'll be relegated by October.
A few rumours this week that Andy Carroll might go out on loan to Newcastle.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Been an interesting, emotional sort of return.
It's kind of been sort of like talked about for a couple of years, actually, isn't it? Really, that he might go back there on loan just to get.
Even Liverpool were rumoured to be selling him back to Newcastle before West Ham.
I think it might just reignite him if he can stay fit.
That's the big thing with him, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, like we said about Oxlade-Chamberlain earlier, same thing. I mean, very different style of player, but same thing. Just can't stay fit long enough. Can be fairly devastating when he wants to be. But anything else from the weekend's fixtures leap out at you, gents, or are we going to leave it there?
I can't think of anything else at the weekend that's
do
pressing.
We know who Manchester City have got in a staggering display of non-research? We don't know who Manchester City are playing.
Yeah, but we've got Bournemouth as an early game tomorrow. Bournemouth at Dean Court.
Might be difficult, but Bournemouth have lost their first 2, so it could be a bit of a. They haven't scored yet either, so.
No, not playing Defoe either, which I think is a bit of a strange one, isn't it?
Well, 35. You'd think you'd play him really, but
has he not been playing? Because I'd heard a lot of Bournemouth fans had been surprised that Eddie Howe had moved away from the success of the shape he had last year with Josh King up front, but they've been trying to sort of make it so as Defoe is squeezed into that side, and that's had the negative repercussions on the results. So I think maybe Defoe has been playing.
I've seen him play. Him playing, but I thought he might have come on.
Yeah, he's come on. He hasn't started yet.
Oh right.
I think Eddie Howe's just saying he's not quite fit.
Could be managing him carefully. I mean, at the end of the day, I always think Jermaine Defoe is about 49, and the fact that he's younger than me actually upsets me. Why is he younger than me? I don't know, actually.
I think you're thinking of Obafemi Martins. He's permanently 28.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wouldn't we all love to be permanently 28?
Other games at the weekend, we've got Crystal Palace versus Swansea.
Mark saved us. That's already looking like a bit. Again,
Sort of
two teams who've lost both games. Oh no, Swansea drew, didn't they, in the first game?
But we're awful
yeah.
in that game. So
So teams who need to pick up points.
Huddersfield, who started well against Saints, that haven't really got a fortunate win against West Ham.
It's just incredible to sit here and think that already you could imagine you wouldn't be overly surprised if Huddersfield got a result there.
They're almost like the anti-Newcastle, aren't they? Whereas no one's back the manager at Newcastle. They brought on a lot of players. Huddersfield. It's all been kind of fairly cheap imports, but you can't. There seems to be a one-club mentality there, and everyone seems to be permanently behind him. So I say good luck to them. I'm sure that, now I've sung their praises, I'm sure they'll get beat 3-0 tomorrow, but we shall see.
And then the other game we haven't mentioned, Watford, who've started pretty well.
Yeah.
Against Brighton, who have yet to get a point.
Yeah,
I've said before, Brighton strike me too much as a bit like this season's Middlesbrough. Holding out for points rather than sort of giving things a go, and I know they probably wanted a solid sort of grounding to begin with, but it didn't pay for Karanka, did it? And you can see that Chris Hughton could be in the same predicament come Christmas.
Yeah, I think Mark. I think you're both right, but I think when Mark said they struggled to score goals, I mean, I saw him in the first game, and I know that was against Manchester City, but City playing such a high line, and they just didn't have enough threat, Brighton, and you do wonder whether they'll be able to just get enough goals to win games. Like you say, it could be the odd point here and there, and they might even get a heroic 0-0 somewhere like the Etihad or something like that. But I don't see them getting enough goals to be able to stay up at the moment. Although it's very early to make that call again.
That's what we're here for.
They'll probably beat Watford. Now I've said that, but excellent. I think that's a lovely preview wrapped up, gents. So without further ado, I think I'll close the show down for this week. Look out for our transfer special next week, transfer deadline day. The window's going to slam shut, and we're going to do a podcast on it. We're not going to be with you live because logistics mean that's impossible, but you can still listen to us reacting to the news the next day or whenever the podcast goes out. So look out for that. But we have been Scored to Follow, and we'll see you next time. Wow.